On today's show, Darrell and I are going to go a little deeper into our game planning process. The first one being the pre-game data set. Hey guys, welcome back to Strategic Baseball Podcast. Jeff Rottmeyer here and Darrell Coulter. And we are looking forward to going a little bit deeper into our game planning process that we use here at Athletic Mission Baseball Academy in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The last episode, we gave you kind of an overview of using data in the game planning. And today we figured we would take this show and the next couple shows and kind of break it down a little bit further for you guys. You know, this is a lot of fun for Darrell and I, and even the coaches and instructors that we are working with, they are starting to kind of implement this, and they're starting to see it kind of play out, and they're having a lot of fun with this. So, and again, so if you guys are a coach or an instructor who's interested in learning about the strategic advantage baseball process, and how to implement it into your team setting or your academy setting, just feel free to shoot me an email at jeff@athletic-mission.com. Jeff, Geoff @athletic-mission.com. All right, Darrell, I'm going to let you kick this off. Wait, Darrell, by the way, real quick, Darrell, for the people who have joined our mailing list at strategic-baseball.com, you should have received an email from us with a couple documents. The first one being the takeaways that Darrell wants you to have on the pitching side, and the takeaway that I want you to have on the hitting side. And there's plenty of room to write notes and stuff. So go ahead and download that and follow along with the show. The second one is going to be the pregame data layout, both for hitting and pitching, that we're going to be talking about today. So you guys have a printout of the exact pregame data that we use, and so you guys can take that and implement it with the game planning process with your team. And then we also have in there the transcription, if you would rather read this episode. And then lastly, again, if you were one of those coaches who were maybe interested in learning more about the strategic advantage baseball process into your training, there is an option on that email to book a call with us. So, but again, if you're not on the email list, go ahead and head over to strategic-baseball.com, and that way you can get the rest of the email from here on out. All right, Darrell, so let's kick this off. Today we're talking about pregame data.
Yeah, hey, it's been a great conversation the last few weeks. And so based on the feedback we're getting, and keep it coming, man, we love hearing from all of you guys out there, the parents, the coaches, and especially the players that are really starting to ask questions around the strategic advantage mindset and really what does it mean and kind of what should they be taking away from that. So today we're going to kind of go back and again, the last few shows, a couple shows ago, we talk about the difference, or how we explain the difference between the mental and strategic, and kind of how that mental side, or the mental aspect, is really just the organized thoughts that take us from our physical capability to strategy, to how do we use it against an opponent, or how do we read and study our opponent. And then last week, we kind of broke that down a little deeper about how we literally do it here at Athletic Mission and how we kind of walk through that process. And so this week, we're going to give you a little deeper insight. And again, people want to know, tangibly how we do this. And it's a great question, because that's the challenge that Jeff and I have been going through down here. And this is what we've been trying to do. And so this week, we're going to talk about the pregame data. Kind of, again, we don't want to fire hose these guys. So it's not about information overload. It's really about helping them understand as we move through the preseason about, okay, here's the mastered pitches we're going to throw. And again, mastered just means that I can throw it on purpose. This ain't about perfection. This ain't about exact. The game is just not a game of exact location of pitches, but as close as we can get, and the intent that we throw that pitch with does give us the ability, the more we master that, to be able to go out and actually create a strategy versus another hitter. And so there's a few things that that from the pitching side of it, Geoff, I'm going to walk them through real quick. And the first one is what we call the pregame data set. And it absolutely starts with, what does the hitter know about me as a pitcher? And again, for pitchers, this is what I tell them. Let's don't start digging into what that hitter can do until you really, and again, we tell guys all the time, man, don't lie to yourself about what you're capable of doing. And don't lie to yourself about the different locations that you really have mastered, that you can consistently execute all your different pitches to. And that means individually by pitch, we identify the different locations in and in the zone, in and out of the zone, out to in the zone, that we can throw each one of our pitches to. And not every pitch we can throw in all aspects or all locations of the zone, or in and in, or in and out, or out the in. So there's different ideas of how we master pitches and how we really do command those pitches that is going to give that hitter some idea of what we do. And I think that as we start the true strategic advantage mindset process about what do I do that gives me a strategic advantage over the hitter, then we got to look at, okay, really, what could that hitter know about me? What's my patterns, habits, and tendencies? What do I like to do with my pitches in certain situations and counts? And again, this is the piece, Geoff, where I think a lot of guys get overwhelmed, because where coaches tell them not to overthink, or, not to get too far into the weeds in this. But the reality of it is, man, this is the basis of all of our decisions. And when we start feeling pressure, or we start feeling stressed, we're going to default to what we do. We're going to default to what feels most natural, what we trust the most. And again, at the end of the day, if that becomes super predictable, and you're pitching against a good team, then it becomes actually the problem. And so we got to understand that piece of it. And so once we grasp that piece of what I really know about me, I'm being honest with myself, then we move on to the next piece is, okay, do you know that hitter's hot zone? Do you know where he likes the ball at? Do you know what pitches he's looking for in that zone? And kind of, does he have any type of plate discipline at all? And again, we'll talk about that in a little bit when we talk about the background check. But just a quick snapshot, man. Do we know in the zone, does he like the ball up and in? Does he like the ball middle away? Does he like the ball down and in? And again, is there a pattern to the if we watch his last 10 at bats and we see him swing and we see him make contact, is there a consistent area that he barrels up pitches better from? And then the third one is what is his take counts and pitches? Is there a certain count? Is there certain pitches that he absolutely ain't swinging at until he's, behind in the count, or until he has to? Or maybe he's like, dude, I can't hit that pitch. I'm not ever swinging at it. I'm going to make the umpire call me out. And again, we want to know that, because if we know his hot zone, and then we know his take counts and take pitches, then we know the different situations and counts that, one, we can attack him in. And then we know that if we can move the ball in and out of the zone, we can show it in his hot zone and move it out. Then that's going to be a strategy when we're ahead in the count that we want to look at. But if we also want to pitch him differently based on what he's seen the last at bat, and we're in that same situation and count, and he's looking in to out, so he thinks we're going to start a pitch in the zone and move it out, we can go back and go from out to in and try to freeze him and get that, that strikeout looking, or get him to take that pitch and get the umpire to call it. So again, when we lay this base decision-making process out, what does the hitter know about me? Do you know his hot zone? And then what is his take counts and pitches? And again, none of this is about perfect, but it gives us, especially these younger pitchers, that basic framework to know that, hey, in and in the zone, in and out of the zone, out to into the zone with my different pitches based just on his hot zone and based on me just knowing, hey, man, he's got a tendency to take pitches in these counts or take a pitch that starts out of the zone and moves back in, then that's a great little foundational place to start with young pitchers and get their mind right. The second piece that we focus on is what we call the background check. This is just kind of what we know about this hitter based on, the either watching him play in real time, based on the different things that we've seen on film, or maybe it's a kid that you played against multiple times, either in high school or in summer ball. And so we're just looking for 7 core things. 1, patterns, habits, and tendencies, superstitions, nuances, anything that kind of shows you like what his pregame ritual is, what his pitch ritual is, his pre-pitch stance, kind of in and out of the box, the different things he do, because we want to see tempo. We want to see if he changes it. We want to see if he feels stress inside of his pre-pitch routine, and is he changing it based on based on what he's not comfortable with. And again, those little patterns, habits, and tendencies and nuances will kind of tell you whether that hitter's in his comfort zone or whether he's frustrated, whether he's doing something a little different because of him not seeing the pitches the way he wants to see them, or you're not pitching him the way he thought you were going to pitch him. And again, we want to see that right away. Lefty righty tendencies, does he have a tendency and approach versus lefties versus righties, or is he similarly, his hot zone where he's at is the same versus both? His swing, what type of swing he does he have a real compact inside, trust his hand swing versus a longer swing? Okay, what kind of power he has, and is it legit power or is he dead pull? Speed, is he going to try to use his speed to get on base? It obviously brings the bunt in play, different stuff like that. Then his strikeout to walk ratio to kind of find out, just honestly, is he aggressive? Does he strike out a lot? Does he walk a lot? Does he not strike out very often? And does he not walk a lot? Again, will all tell us, the kind of discipline he has, especially when he's ahead in the count. And he's not walking a lot, then we know he's swinging. He's looking for a pitch to hit, and he wants to swing the bat. So we can be a little more intentional in how we attack him in and in the zone or in and out of the zone, and depending on where he's consistently looking for the ball at. And then we can, if we got his last 10 at bats, or we got any type of film, anything that we can go through and kind of see like where he's at in the moment. We want to kind of find out where he's at, where his head's at. Is he on fire? Is he struggling? And again, kind of reviewing the different situations and counts that we find him in. And again, that's just kind of the background check that we can kind of get a snapshot of where he's at before we really dig into the third piece, which is his setup, where he sets up in the box, and again, where his hands are. Those are things that we want to pay attention to, man, from the time he walks from the on deck circle as he gets into the box. I want the guys focused. I want them looking for any cue and clue that this guy has made some type of adjustment to them, or maybe a pregame adjustment just because they're pitching. Did he scoot up in the box a little bit because he's not afraid of your fastball? Did he scoot back off the plate because he knows you're going to pound him inside? Any of those little adjustments that you could see that hitter made based on his setup, that would kind of give you a snapshot into whether this guy has really done some pregame, strategy sessions against you, trying to do some game planning against you, or whether he just does the same thing versus every pitcher, and kind of that is who he is. And then the fourth and final piece of the pregame data stuff that we kind of walk through is just the reality of how he got his numbers. We call it the true facts. And what does he like to do first pitch, first at bat? What's he like to do first pitch, second at bat? Is it really coach driven? Is it a coach driven philosophy, or is it an individual hitter driven philosophy? And then we just walk through all the different situations and counts. What's he like to do in the negative counts when he's behind 0-1, 0-2, 1-2? What's he like to do? What's he looking for when he's ahead in the count 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, 3-0, 3-1? And then what does he like to do on neutral counts? What's he looking for? What, you know, is it a lot of taking, or is he super aggressive in the neutral counts, the 1-1, the 2-2, and the 3-2? And again, we're starting to see, as we walk through this, a process based on his background check, based on his setup, based on the reality of his numbers and how he got it, that we can look at the type and the locations of pitches hit and the type and the locations of pitches taken. And with just these little core pieces, the background check, the setup, and then what we call the true facts, we can take these pieces and based on the pitches that our pitchers are going to throw that day and the locations they can consistently execute all their different pitches to, and then looking at this kind of snapshot of what we got pregame on these hitters, and we can put together a solid little game plan to at least give us that start, that feel of understanding that, hey, this just ain't luck. This just ain't wishful thinking, that the coach and the catcher and the pitchers can get together and collaborate. And as much as this information they can gather, it will give them this base framework and this base, as you and I call it, this kind of strategic advantage that a lot of times is the core driver to our confidence. And I think that's what we're seeing here, Geoff. I think we're starting to see that the more that these guys grasp this, the more that we introduce this, the more that we see them really starting to take it to their high school practices, their high school scrimmages, the summer ball, travel ball scrimmages, back to college with them, and the little takeaways that they're taking away from every outing now, them really post-game evaluations or post-pin evaluations are getting really super specific, man. And I think that ultimately becomes the core to our pitching success. And honestly, how do we create a game day strategy versus any hitter? And the pitchers that grasp that and the ones that we've had that get this really, man, feel like going into the game, they got a huge advantage over their opponent.
Yeah, for sure, Darrell. And for our listeners to understand, you and I do a lot of two-way players. So guys that hit and pitch, do both. And so these guys get exposed to the hitting game planning and the pitching game planning. So now they get a good understanding of this game of baseball and the matchup between hitters and pitchers. This strategic advantage mindset gets them thinking in a way that allows them to compete with anyone they step on the field with and have the confidence to do so. And so on the hitting side, we do a lot of the same type of research that you guys do on the pitching side. So for the hitting pregame data set, a lot like you guys, we're talking about what does this pitcher know about me? I spend a lot of time with our hitters and getting them to try to really understand who they are as a hitter and what they're trying to do when they're up there, what they do well, what they don't do well, what cues and clues are they giving to the pitcher based on their swing, based on how they set up, based on how they react. This allows them to get deeper into really understanding who we are as hitters and potentially what pitchers will know about us. So this is going to include things like us really understanding what my hot zone is, what's my cold zone. Is there certain pitches I know that I cannot hit well? Is there a certain count that I know I do not do well in? Am I the guy that slightly panics the second I get behind in the count? Or is it just another count to me? Is there a certain location that I know I cannot drive the baseball and do damage with? Is there a certain situation that I thrive in or that I choke in? Do I do well with runners in scoring position? Or the moment that there's a runner on second and third in the bottom of the eighth inning, that heart rate is racing and your breath gets shorter and faster. Am I that guy? Am I the power threat type of guy? Am I a barrel to ball type of guy? Am I the type of guy that gets overpowered. Am I a guy to like to take that first pitch? Or do I like to swing at that first pitch? Am I a guy that takes the 3-0, 3-1? Or do I swing? Is this coach driven or is it individual driven? So what does he know about me is the first question we always go through. And a lot of times it's a good experiment for the guys to really try to understand themselves as hitters. Then after that, we get into a deeper understanding of the pitcher and try to see what we can pick out to figure out how we game plan and approach him. So I want to know what pitches he throws and then what pitches he throws when he's ahead. What pitches does he consider to be his best pitch? Where did he typically throw that pitch? Can he command that pitch on purpose? Then what is his out pitch? And what pitches does he tend to try to use to try to get guys out with? So those I want to know. Then it gets me into, what are the PVML of his pitches? And the PVML, as Darrell called it, is the pitch velocity movement to a specific location. So understanding what pitches they have and the velocity ranges, it definitely helped me understand how to prepare for the type of pitch and the velocity that he's getting ready to approach me with. But we want to understand too how these guys' pitches move, because every pitcher's pitch moves differently. And then can he command that pitch? Can he command it on purpose? Can he go in to out to in with his pitches? And what pitches can he do that with? And what count in the situation will he do that in? So those are the pregame data set that we talk about. What does he know about me? What is his pitches what pitches does he throw when he's ahead? What is his out pitches? And then what is the PVML of all of his pitches? Then we get into that background check again, just like Darrell, we got 7 here as well. And this is really based on what we know about him, watching him in real time or watching him on film, or maybe this is the pitcher that you face multiple times. Remember, every pitcher, every coach, every team has the habit, patterns, and tendencies. So different things that he does when he sets up, different things he does when he gets the ball back from the catcher or he gets the ball back from the third baseman, things he does when he doesn't get the call that he wants. We want to see the tempo. We want to see if he changes that. We want to see if he's feeling a little uneven or stressed inside of his pre-pitch routine. And is he changing that based on you and what he sees? And then there's the lefty-righty tendency. Does this pitcher have a different approach against lefties than he does against righties? Is there certain pitches that he will throw? Is there certain pitches that he won't throw? And then this leads up to the arm action. So where is his release point? Is it over the top? Is it high 3/4, low 3/4, sidearm? What's the back swing like? Does he hide the ball well? Is his arm action slower with certain pitches? You got to have a feel for what the pitchers are doing. The pitcher's coming slower, faster. Is it coming on you? Is there the feel that you get when you can see the pitches and the arm action that goes with it? And then we have it. Is he a power guy or is he kind of a nibble guy? Like, is he a guy that's going to blow the doors off of you, or is he a guy that's going to start that ball in your hot zone and move it out? So different approaches, different game plan for a guy who throws really, really hard versus a guy who can move balls around in that zone. And then we talked a little bit about the velocity already, talking about really studying their PVML and understanding how their pitches move and what that means in terms of how we're going to game plan and how we're going to approach them. And then we want to know their strikeout to walk ratio. This gives us a lot of ideas. It gives us an idea of whether this guy can get the ball over the plate. Obviously, he can get strikes. He starts the ball in in and out the hot zone. He gets the chase at different pitches. This is going to be a different game plan versus the guy who has no idea where his pitches are going. And then we want to look at his last 3 to 5 outings. Like you said, we want to see where he's at right now. Is he struggling a little bit, or is he shoving? He's bringing his A game right now. So that's the background check, which then leads to the setup, how he's set up on that rubber. Where they set up is important because it gives us the feel for the angles and the movement that some of his pitches may or may not do based on where he's standing. And it also gives us an understanding of our ability to be able to see the pitch, see the baseball. The righty standing on the right side of the mound, that arm angle coming inside part of the plate, that ball may run, fade, cut, slide a little bit more. So where they're set up really matters, and there's something that we got to get guys to get into the habit of looking to get an understanding of, what these pitches may do or may not do. And, here at Athletic Mission, not anymore because they started working with us, but prior, we've heard them make statements like they would move around the rubber to make adjustments to throw certain pitches or locations. So if I could see that a guy moved around that rubber to hit a certain location or a certain pitch, that obviously something I would like to know. Hand positions, how they set up their glove in their setup. At the youth level, this is like the easiest, most obvious find. Pay attention to what guys are doing, looking for the nuances and just give you a tremendous advantage. To which now this leads to the true facts. What does he throw the first pitch of the first at bat? What about the first pitch, second at bat, and so forth? You get that. So, and then what does he like to do when he's behind in the count? Is there certain pitches or certain locations that he will not throw when he's behind? Is he scared? Does he slightly freak out when he gets behind in certain counts, in certain situations, or against certain hitters? What does he do when he's ahead? What about when he's in a neutral count? So these are all the data, during the pregame that we are trying to gather to game plan what we want to do and what my approach would be that day against that particular pitcher. And feel confident with my preparation for game day. The biggest thing I want to highlight is just really making sure that everyone understands that you can't have a generic game plan or a generic approach for a pitcher. Because it's got to be based on the individual hitter and what he can and what he cannot do. And then what that pitcher can and cannot do. So this is fun, man. Darrell, the kids love it. You and I see the conversations that they have with us and even among themselves, and it's fun, man. It's real. It's baseball.
Yeah, man. And I think as we wrap this up and to understand that this can feel overwhelming, but I'm telling you, it's not. It really isn't. When we just make it a natural way that we train these guys, that we want them to think this way. And so I think as coaches, we got this tendency, man, that we're either all in or we're not doing it at all. And I think the lukewarmness of what players take away is kind of what detracts from, honestly, these guys seeing the game that way. But I think as coaches, if we'll start taking the core data that we have, the stuff that we want them to understand, and we really start making it part of the pre-pitch process, the pre-pitch decision-making process, then these guys will start looking for it in practice. Start reading and studying your own hitters. Start reading and studying your own pitchers in practice. That's the great place to start. You and I have been blessed, man. We got a ton of great two-way guys. And one of the first questions we ask them and the parents when they come in through our process is kind of like, hey, man, walk me through how you would pitch to you. And man, you hear them, man. You can almost hear their silence at like, dude, I've never thought about that. Well, how would you get you out, man? You're a pretty good two-way player, dude. How would you pitch to you? And then, okay, if you were pitching, or hitting, how would you hit off of you? And so that's one of those things that we can really start, with that basis of let's just get the mind right. Let's get the mind thinking about, okay, what do I do? What do I do well? And then how does that give me a strategic advantage versus opponent? And then, okay, now let's break that opponent down so I can truly have that strategic advantage. And so then it's just about getting in situations and counts that I can use my skills that are best suited for what I need to do right then in real time. And so I think this is fun, man. When we start seeing the game this way, baseball's not boring. And when players, and that will probably be my big takeaway from the day. If coaches, if you want your players engaged, if you want to see these guys really love the game the way you do, then invite them into the strategic advantage mindset and get them to understand that game planning is not just wishful thinking and luck, that we can look at some of the patterns, habits, and tendencies of the hitters or pitchers. And the more that we see about what they consistently do and how they do it, and then understand how we do it, and how that shows up on game day, that is baseball, man. And when we get that piece right, dude, it's a lot of fun.
For sure. And, you and I talk a lot about, this seemed like a lot, but really when these guys are in the dugout, for the most part, they're watching the game, especially as they get older. They're watching the game. A lot of time, they just don't know what they're looking for. So this is something that we have to teach them what to look for. Start looking for the patterns, habits, and tendency and the nuances. And like you said, then baseball becomes not so boring. And when you learn to watch the game this way, you can't unsee it. And baseball, it's just fun, man. And it's not an information overload like you think it would. And that's my takeaway. If you teach them what to look for, how to watch a baseball game, if you help them game plan and have an approach against that pitcher, you'll be amazed and they'll be amazed how much better their at-bats get and their pitching outing gets. Now, that doesn't mean we won't struggle, but a lot of times we're not doing as bad or as good as we think we are. It all just kind of comes down to execution or the lack thereof.
Absolutely. And I know real quick, if you ask that question, and we do in all our post-game evaluations, you can tell if they're really picking it up or not, because you can't lie about this data. You get to see it. So you see it in real time. So when they give you the feedback of what really happened, or they can come back in after the game and you didn't watch them play, and they're starting to answer the questions that that they had to watch the game to see that. They had to be paying attention to see that. That's usually the cue or clue to a coach that, hey, this kid's starting to get it, and you're going to see the improvement follow that. You're going to see the consistency and the confidence follow that, and that's the cool part about it.
Right. And this is why, like we've mentioned a handful of times before, why you and I say that in season is when you see growth. Because like you said, the conversations are a dead giveaway as to whether they are seeing the game and watching the game and making that real-time adjustment.
Absolutely. Good stuff, man.
All right. Thank you all for listening once again. Again, obviously, if you guys are finding any value in these episodes, please go leave us an objective review and then head over to strategic-baseball.com and join our email list. We are getting ready to start sending them out every Friday as we release a new podcast. So thank you all again for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week.